Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a great pleasure to be here talking about this important topic. As the MC has said, this is a really big issue. I think if you speak to, in fact, 10 people today, I'm sure 8 youths will say they want to leave the country. And I think we're all feeling it in our different organizations today. So this is a very important topic, and I'm glad we have key people to discuss this as well. All right, so just before we go into the discussion, I think it's important to pull up a couple of statistics as to what is actually happening around the world, because this is actually a global issue. I've had a look at some of the research on ground, and we've seen that there's a Korn Ferry report which says that in 2030, we should expect that there's potentially going to be about 85 million shortages in jobs. So, no, actually, there'll be availability of jobs, but a shortage in the amount of people that can actually fill that role. So I think that's a big shortage, and that's over the next 10 years. Now, if we zoom down into Africa, right? Africa has a population of about 1.4 billion people. And in terms of developers, so technology talents, we have just about 800,000 people. So this is including the whole of Africa, professionals, okay? And then if we take that into Nigeria as well, we have, I looked at different reports, and on an average, about 100,000. And I'm sure that number is depleting by the day. Now I'm going to take another country, and this is India. India in itself has about 1.6 billion people. And as of now, they have about 5 million developers working in India. So can you just do that comparison yourself? You know, we have in the whole of Africa about 800,000, but in India, they have about 5 million. And as of 2017, so that was 5 years ago, they had about 2.5 million. So in the past 5 years, they've managed to double their technology talent. And I think that this is very important because, you know, we all know where the world is going. So I'm going to open up to my panelists and just to hear everyone's view. What is your experience on this topic? Do you actually even have a talent problem? What do you think the cause is? So maybe we can start with Oyin here, if you could go ahead.
Yeah,
So
sure.
just 2 minutes here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lola. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oyin Johnson Awoni. I work with The Room, and we are a tech talent service provider. So, in answer to your question, yes, we have a talent problem. There, you already, referred to the statistics. My understanding of it is actually $8.5 trillion talent deficit. And this is global. So the Amazons and the Salesforces of this world are saying, look, the amount of talent we need to hire in the next 10 years is in the hundreds of thousands, and we don't know where they're going to come from. Yeah. Right? So there is definitely a problem all round, and I guess it behoves on us to find a way to solve that problem. That's what we're trying to do at The Room. But there are a lot of stakeholders that need to come together to solve the talent problem. Of course, we have the issue in Africa with the brain drain, and we are experiencing it quite a bit here with Jakba, as she mentioned earlier. But yeah, absolutely, there's a talent problem, and something needs to be done about it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. If we could go to Mr. Bolahom. So what do you think is causing it, if you're experiencing it, of course?
Okay. I mean, every industry, every sector is experiencing JAPA, and the statistics, like you mentioned, they are correct. But what we do in tech expertise, we try to reverse what is going on globally. So, like you mentioned, right now we have 800,000 developers in Africa. And the world is looking to Africa by 2030, 2035 to be the talent pool, to be able to supply talent to the entire world. That is what Indian was 20 years ago, and they've been able to develop their market over a period of 20 years. So in Tech Expert, what we do is try to reverse the system and look into our market. you have, on the average, about 600,000 university graduates every year, except when ASU goes on strike. And at the other side, you have 35% unemployment. So we have a skilling company, Elevate, that is responsible for training and upskilling them. And we have Tech Expert that is into IT outsourcing. So today, we have 2,000 software engineers that are based in Lagos, and they are providing specialized technical support to the Microsoft, the HP, the Micro Focus, and the big organizations in different parts of the world.
Thank you very much. We'll go deep into that discussion very soon. And I think I'll go to the Now team. What's your experience? What do you think is causing this talent problem?
Yeah, I think that, yes, indeed, there is a talent problem. But I think more so, at least from my experience, what's most pressing is the expertise, the need for expertise, right? So in my experience, I find that in Nigeria, a lot of tech talents are self-developed, self-taught. So there's a lot of need for education, for training, for grooming these talents as well. I mean, you're making the comparison with India, but India has a lot of, schools, universities that treat these courses, and, a lot of big names came from these schools, and they are not lacking in terms of mentorship or coaching or guidance. And you find, for instance, openings that need 5-10 years experiences. Well, literally, we weren't talking about Android developers or full stack engineers 10 years ago, So there's a need I see the talents, but there's a need to coach them and guide them to actually match up with the world standard. I think what the other speaker spoke about from Tech Experts, having trainings and schools, that offer these training opportunities is good. But at the same time, companies should be open to coaching and mentorship opportunities for young talents. Don't necessarily insist on 10 years, 5 years experience. At least bring in interns, let them shadow, more experienced people. And again, with the brain drain, there's a need to, nurture our young talents and ensure that they're able to match up.
Don't tell us all the answers now.
All right.
We're going to get there. Thank you. I'll go online. I don't know if Dr. Conte is online as well, before I go to Asanai. Okay, maybe not.
Okay.
But please, Asani, if you can tell us your perspective. Asana is the chairman of the FinTech Start Association in Russia, so it will be interesting to hear his view on what's happening.
Okay, yes. Hello everyone. And I would like to describe briefly a situation that we have also with now a huge talent problem in Russia since the beginning of war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Our country is faced with a problem of losing good talents, especially in software development and finance. For example, I don't know, around 50,000 software engineers left Russia and moved to Armenia, neighbor country. And it happens with different areas, especially IT and finance. And people moved to neighbor countries. Also, otherwise startup teams, especially, for example, fintech or projects which work with digital banking and etc., they started to find new markets. And the reason why many of them ask to introduce me to and ask me to introduce them with Nigerian banks and corporations, and Russian companies started to search Asian and African markets to find and implement new digital products. Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me? I found out it's not just me, but you're a bit muffled, so we're struggling to hear you. I don't know if it's something you can correct.
Okay. Do you hear now or not?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah,
it's better if I go. Yeah, if I go slowly. Okay. So I will repeat. So now we are losing a lot of talent, especially in IT and finance. For example, 50,000 people moved out from Russia to neighbor Armenia, and more people went to other countries as Kazakhstan or Georgia, Serbia or Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. So it's quite a lot. But from another hand, a lot of, for example, startup teams, they started to find new markets. And the reason why many of them asked me to introduce them to these Nigerian banks and corporations. And also, Russian companies started to search Asian and African markets to find and implement new digital products and software instead of European and American. So we have, so our talents problem became very strange because people started to go to other countries about where they didn't sought to live before. And instead...
So sorry, Asani. We're really, really struggling. What I'm thinking is I'll come back to you because I'm sure you're sharing really valuable insights. So I'll come back to you again. If you just try and work on the speaking, it'll be great. All right, thank you. So I'll just move quickly on to the next question. And I think, a lot of times when we're talking about tech talent, and even in Nigeria now, there's a focus on tech. But I think it'll be good to hear, and I think from probably Oyin, just because of what you do in your industry, on what you think, what other industries do you think are affected by this?
I think the short answer is I don't think there's any industry that is not affected. So yes, I work with the room, and we focus on training and placing tech talent. But I am a lawyer, so I can say even I'm trying to hire now, and it's a bit of a struggle to find people who have the requisite skill set for what's required to perform on a global stage. I think increasingly as we stop competing with the man next to us, technology is a leveler, right? It gives, to a large extent, equal opportunity, right? And so what that means is that we're no longer competing with the person next door to us. We are now competing with people in other African countries and people across the world. So it's creating an issue where it's no longer okay for the talent to just be average, because you can access talent of the highest quality across the world and across the continent. But it's also for the employers. If you're not providing the kind of benefits, the kind of pay that talent can get from somewhere else, they're going to go to the highest bidder. So I think it's particularly endemic in tech talent because of the level of technical expertise required. But I think it's actually a general thing cutting across industries, governments, banks, and particularly, of course, as we've said, fintechs and other technology companies.
Thank you so much. And I think that gives a good insight because it's basically everywhere, even doctors, nurses. I mean, it's huge at the moment. And we're going to talk about talent and average, or I would say mediocre, very shortly. But before we go there, I want us to talk about the fact that, yes, a lot of people are leaving, but is that necessarily a bad thing for the country? Because, we need to ask ourselves those questions. Some people encourage that people leave the country and come back better trained to equip, the country. There's a diaspora impact as well. So I would like, to hear from, I guess, Lekon or Uchechi, and also yourselves on what your views are on that, please.
And I'll use technology as an example in terms of employment within technology. Anybody that has worked with any engineers know every engineer is doing like 7 jobs at the same time. They moonlight, they work for multiple companies, competitors, and I think employers have to be very honest with themselves and say that having a full and exclusive engineer, other people within that space, is just very unrealistic. That's the first thing. Until you actually face that paradigm and say, do you know what? You're going to be a contractor. My IP is exclusive to me, but you could go and do whatever you want to do but you meet my own KPIs and OKRs, do whatever you want, I don't care. That's the first hurdle. The second issue, COVID was like an awakening of disruption for every sector, be it technology, banking, transportation. But in Nigeria, we want to go back to the old way. Everybody back in the offices, everybody clocking in, you know, paper, pen. It's like we haven't accepted the reality of what COVID has done, accepted technology as an enabler, a driver of efficiency. So I think that psychological block, until it's removed, will continue to be a hurdle for every industry in Nigeria. But finally, I think, like you said, moving and migrating from Nigeria should not be seen as a bad thing, as long as we accept remote working for what it is. People are going to work within their own comfort zone. Again, as long as they meet the objectives of their employer, objectives of their contract, it's not an issue. So we have to be a lot more dynamic, a lot more flexible, and a lot more fluid. And if we don't do that, we're still going to be very inefficient. And people will simply leave Nigeria, find jobs that meet their own requirements. Again, I'm a very old man, I'm not a Gen Z, but you have Gen Zs who put their mental health, their priorities, their well-being, and their happiness above everything else. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that, and you're going to, unfortunately, see dinosaurs like me being the talent that is left for people to actually use. You know, I don't mind doing multiple jobs, but the reality is, unless we're able to shift our mindset and how we see employment, and we see employment as an opportunity to expand rather than being a slave to the sector, to the industry, things will not change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is it's for the people. Please, your views as well.
Okay. I think I'm aligned with most of the things they have said. But what I would just love to add to that is research has it that at this time around, employers must be willing to invest in upskilling their employees. You must look long term and say, these are my projects, these are the XYZ I want to achieve, and you must be willing to invest. Because developers now, every 6 months, want to learn new technologies. Some of them, it goes beyond the financial aspect. They just want to do something different and do so many things at the same time. So you must be willing to engage them, train them, and also give them the exposure that is required. And one thing that I'll also talk about, I think, we have also tried to increase the number of women in technology. So 4 years ago, we had 10% of our team that were women. Out of 200 people qualifying 20. But today, we have 30% of our team that are women. So I have about 450 software support engineers that are women, and they've also been able to provide stability in the operations. We have leaders within the organization that are women that are able to help stabilize the business and others. So I think really we need to invest. And about people leaving Nigeria, it will always continue to happen. But the question is, we have 30% of our people that are unemployed. These are millions, so we need to invest in upskilling them. The Indian you made reference to, I think they do more immigration than us. You find them in every country, everywhere in the world. But you see companies that are running 100,000 software developers in India, because right from secondary school, they've started upskilling them to get involved in software development. That is the gap we need to fix in Nigeria.
Thank you. I'll speak to that, or let me just say it now. So for me, technology is something I'm very passionate about because my first job was as a software engineer. So I used to be a coder those days, and I wonder whether I should have, risen up or just stayed as a developer because, it seems to be what's hot on the market. But those days I was so rare. I mean, in a room of maybe 13 other developers, I was the only woman. So it's really good to hear what you guys are doing, and I know a lot of other organizations are doing that as well. So I'll speak to that. I'll come over to Asani, please. If you could tell us your views just on this diaspora impact. Do you think, is it really a bad thing that people are leaving?
I hope now you can hear me. It's a good and bad. But it's as an example how it was happened in 90s in Russia. After crash of Soviet Union, many people left Russia, but later they understood that they can get more opportunities at home because capitalism just came there, and they returned and started new businesses, IT companies, kind of. Some of them because kind of started very scam business, but it's bad stories. We have good examples. So I guess many people who went for a study and job to, for example, to Europe, to the USA, they will return and become kind of accelerator of economic growth because they can get experience, they can see, and then after that they can realize that they gain more, I don't know, opportunities, possibilities, money, and their homeland. So, yeah, I hope it normal process and people will return how it was happened in 90s and beginning of 2000s in Russia, because in this time, kind of growth of GPT and economics was so fast, and when time of capitalism bring new technologies, people could realize and get more gains, scores in Russia than it's abroad. So I hope it will happen, for example, in Nigeria, I guess, and other African countries.
Okay. Thank you, Asani. I must say we did struggle, but I think I picked up something around that there's a good part as well. And I can just even expand a little more on that countries like Vietnam, for instance, they've done a lot of work recently in bringing their people from diaspora to build the country. And that has been really huge for them in terms of what is done for their economy. But I'll move on to the next question now. And that also speaks to what Oyin was speaking about before. So there's a bit of a fear from people who are left that we may be left with mediocre talent. So given that, I mean, a lot of people are leaving the country, working remotely, there's a possibility that we may be left with mediocre talent. There's a statistics from McKinsey that says that good talent is 8 times more productive than average talent, right? And then there's also the thought that, okay, whose responsibility is it really to improve this talent pool? Some employers say that, well, what's the point? After all, I may train, I don't know, somebody today. And, in fact, as you are training them, they already are processing Canada. And potentially, by the time they are done, they are leaving. And there's not much you can do. So I would like to hear views. And I think, Oyin, you touched on that already. If you can just continue, and I'll ask a few people.
On the quality of talent?
On the quality of talent. And how do we really improve it?
So the interesting thing about Japa, it's happening, absolutely. But how many people in Nigeria? 200 million?
200 million?
That we know, that we've counted, there are a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's the idea. There are a lot of people in Nigeria. And there is a certain level of available funds you need to have to this Canada we're talking about to be able to jackpot there. So yes, there's a lot of people going, but there's a lot more people that are here. I think water will find its level. People want to be successful, and they're going to explore the best possible options for them. But there's still a lot of people that are left in the country, and we should focus more on developing the infrastructure, developing the educational system. I mean, I'm a technology lawyer. I'm not really sure if that existed in any tangible way, 20 years ago, maybe even 10. I speak to a lot of people, a lot of young people, and we talk about Web 3.0, Industry 4.0. I'm sure those things never came up in the entire degree that they did, except if they were in maybe computer science degrees. But the point is, there's a lot that can be done with the people that are left to increase the level of talent. So yes, from a governmental perspective, there's a lot to be done there, as individuals as well. So I was saying earlier at the room, we train talent. Next year, we're going to be training cloud computing, talent, data scientists. We've recently this year we trained over 75,000 people with virtual assistants. So many, there are courses out there that you can take, right, and upskill yourself. And on the kind of the JAPA front, the other side of what we do is placing talent, African talent, not just Nigerian, African talent with global companies. So we have people in Rwanda, for example, we have 8 software developers who's just started working in Rwanda for a company in the US. That's going back to the point he made about being open to remote work. So if you're open to remote work and you focus on KPIs, OKRs, deliverables, then you can have people actually upskilled, right? And they stay within the country, within the continent, and they still perform services and create value for foreign companies, but then the value doesn't leave the country. You know what I mean? So I don't know, I think we need to reframe the conversation and not have this gloomy view of this talent thing. It's really not that deep and it's not that bad. We just have to be open-minded and realize that business as usual is not going to work. You cannot be looking at your staff and eyeing them, what have you done today? That doesn't work anymore. And if you're open to that, then the possibilities are endless.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Oyin. We hear you. And I'm sure a lot of people here will be interested in your company after this conversation as well. But I think it'll be interesting to hear from Uchechi as well on this bit about should you really invest in the talents because of what's happening?
So to answer your first question, I would say that it is everyone's responsibility, both the government, the employer, and even the employee themselves, the talents themselves. I think as a nation generally, we're quite reactive in nature, right? So all of a sudden there's a brain drain and now we want to fix it. If Nigeria was a better country, I'm sorry to say, why would anyone want to leave? If the employee packages, compensations, benefits were great, why would anyone want to leave to be a second-class citizen elsewhere, So I think that improving employee benefits and packages, making it mouth-watering, making it attractive to a competitor like Google or Amazon, just like Oyin said, where your competition is no longer the next door neighbor or the next startup that's happening. You're on a world stage now. That's the pros and cons of technology. You're now on a world stage. You're competing against a package from Amazon or a Google or a Meta, So it is everyone's responsibility. If we had better, I mean, transportation or roads and all of that, who would want to leave? At the same time, you're thinking, I'm going to train these people and they're going to leave. But if your package is better, it's more watery, it's more, accommodating. Everyone wants to take care of themselves. Everyone has family. Everyone has bills to pay. And unfortunately, it gets to the highest bidder for some people. Some people you meet and they're really passionate about their craft in Nigeria and they want to stay great. But again, if you meet people like that, reward them. Make them hungry to stay. Make them desirous of staying. Don't, find the talent and then you want to drain every single thing and then they are having to compete with other great companies. It really doesn't balance up. And to another point, I think that, again, it's also a long run, input. You're not going to see the outcome now because as we also have the role of, putting back to the community as employers. You're not necessarily training the next talent to retain them. How about you train for better, a better country or a more competitive pool of talent to have? And again, if Nigerians are going, you as well, you can also employ people from India as well. I mean, we're talking about remote work. You can employ talent from Angola, from Kenya. You don't necessarily have to employ everyone from Nigeria. You can also move around. And again, with the different sort of mindsets, the different backgrounds, you're also bringing in flavor into your company as well. So it shouldn't be a bad thing, but at the same time, it's a call for everyone to wake up and do better because the competition now is on the world stage.
No, thank you so much. And I think something important that two of you have said is really about the mindset. how there needs to be, and I think Lekon touched on it as well, a mindset shift for employers today. You know, it's not going to be business as usual, right? Just as you said, you may be training, a person may leave your company, but really think about the country. At least it's a better place. You don't know if they will come back tomorrow or what impact they would have. So I think that's really, really important, that a mindset shift is required. You know, you can't be, you know, tracking people the way you were tracking them. I mean, it should really be about your work being done, you know, and delivering. I think that should be, you know, a key focus. So I'm going to move to the next question. And I think this is really the meat of the matter. You know, how do we really bridge this talent problem? How do we bridge this gap? And I'll ask, you know, Bolahon to speak to that first, and then Lekon and Asani as well, please.
Wow, okay.
How do we do it?
Okay, like when you mentioned earlier on, we are a country of over 200 million people. The talent is there. As an employer, you must be willing to invest in continuous education for your employee. And as a nation too, both private and government, we must be willing to invest in our people, to train them and know that tech talent is the new oil. And we did a pilot with Microsoft early this year where we took 125 people from non-tech background. We ran them through a 3-month intensive program on software development. And by the last week of their program, 85% of them got jobs. Now, we are looking to do a similar thing to train over 1 million people over the next 5 years in software engineering. That is the future. And what organizations also need to understand, and what he mentioned is, you can no longer own this person as an employee to do 8 to 5, clock in, clock out, invest in the person, and expect 5-year long service award or 10-year long service award. Gone are those days. What we should begin to look at is, right now, we are beginning to do tech talent as a service, which is outsourcing. So you have organizations who have projects, or you want to keep software developers. You can focus on your 30% top talent in-house while we outsource the 70% for you, because I can invest in them, and I know in 9 months, he's tired of working with you, he wants to do something different, we can reassign them to a different project, either within the company or outside the country. So organizations in Nigeria have to start looking at IT outsourcing, not owning the employee. You begin to look at talent as a service. So the good thing is we begin to see lots of Nigerian companies reach out, and we started offering talent as a service locally, because this takes iteration away from you. What is key for you as an organization is business continuity. So at every time T, you have the exact number of talents you need to work on your project, and you don't have to make much investment on skilling, which we will do for you. So I think that is the new number of work, because the average tech guys want to work on 5 projects together. He wants to work 16 hours. He's not willing to clock 8 to 5 with you. He wants to work from home. He wants to support someone in Nigeria and work with another guy in the UK. So that is the future of work, and I think that will fix the talent gap.
Thank you. Just before I move on to Asani Online, what I was going to say is those days, and I would say during my father's days, my father is over 70 years, and those days when you finish school, you almost, once you get a job, that is your job. You're most likely going to retire there. You know, my father worked for Shell, and he retired there. Now, honestly, just as you said, you can barely get, you know, someone to stay with. If you get someone to stay with for 2 years, I mean, you've done well as an employer. So it just speaks to how things are changing. But sorry, Asani, please, I hope we can hear you better.
Okay. Yeah, tech talents, as I say, as a gems now, and everyone looks so great, especially for fintech guys and girls all around the world. In this case, I guess the local talent program is a great idea, because the founders and its teams would be proud there their thoughts can become a reality in a country they will live in. And no need to move, and no need to check for the products a new market. They can build the products that exactly missing on the local market. And also, I would like to say about university. It's important to grow new talents through project education. It means when university start to support young startup guys, maybe they can do education program, business incubators, acceleration program inside, and when it's possible to how it's better to say, when they create teams inside of university, inside of course, and they create own project, a kind of a diploma course project as a startup. So when they create some project with example managers and software engineers, and finally they defend as a master or bachelor project in the end of university. So as long as they make them passionate about their products and its growth on a local or another region market, what also I would like to say, and sustainable pipeline, in my opinion, is support local tech and non-tech specialists, support and let local startups grow in the local market. And I guess it's necessary to let universities and corporations to do own inner entrepreneurship programs, because through entrepreneurship it's better to grow talents as well. I mean, it's possible to grow skills of people and discover their new skills and possibilities to do new things. Yeah, I guess briefly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aseni. To be fair, we struggled, but I was able to pick out something around universities, and I think that's really important, you know, how there's a lot of, you know, I think you also mentioned that people graduating, you know, like, did you say 600?
About 600,000.
600,000 people graduating every year. So there is a strong and solid pipeline I think we can, you know, go into. Lekon, please, your views on this as well.
I think the entire educational structure needs to be overhauled. That's the first thing. Nigeria produces people that can pass exams, but people that don't understand analytics, problem solving, value propositions. And please, nobody shoot me, but I've never seen so many CVs of people that have studied mass communications in my life.
You've never seen?
I've never seen so many CVs of mass communication. I think it must be the most popular topic in Nigeria. Mass. So I think firstly, we need to think about what we actually want. So we need to produce or provide a pyramid educational structure that enables talent to rise from the bottom, from when people are in primary school all the way up to university. So when they enter the labor market, they're actually prepared and they have the correct skill sets to actually provide value to companies. Those skill sets might be specialists or they might be very transferable, but fundamentally, we're still producing or educating people in a manner that was probably ditched by most Western countries 30 years ago. The next step is actually to have properly accredited certifications and training processes. So the idea is whether you are a specialist in Microsoft coding or enterprise solutions, your skills are very transferable, and also it's recognized by any organization. So again, it goes back to the flexibility. But fundamentally, until we have an educational structure that enables us to rise up, I think we're still going to be very stuck. We're always swimming against the tide. Talent will always rise up. But fundamentally, the reason a lot of countries are able to develop and adapt is they have a holistic policy, idea, a short, medium, and long-term plan to enable people to transition from education to being part of the labor pool. And again, some companies succeed, some companies fail. But you never find situations where people who are part of quote-unquote companies that have failed aren't able to then transfer their skills to other sectors. So we have very niche or very unnecessary skill sets that are produced that don't actually lead and grow towards Nigeria's future. Again, because we're talking about technology, so I think I'll focus on that. Like we said, the talent pool of engineers is very, very small, but that's only an element of the entire technology ecosystem. We talk about partnerships, we talk about understanding and articulation, the commercial element of technology, disruption, how a fintech's going to affect the entire banking sector. You know, again, fintechs ourselves, we need to decide, do we want to be fintechs or do we want to be glorified banks in a different name? So it's about identifying exactly what we want as a sector and how does that affect other sectors. Are we going to bring in people that come from the banking sector naturally, or are we going to say to ourselves, we're going to come together and develop a framework and architecture to actually produce, educate, and train talent that seamlessly fits into what we want? I don't think the fact that people are migrating away from Nigeria is actually an issue. Like I said, we're always swimming against the tide in Nigeria. Universities are on strike, but still you have incredibly talented people that rise to the top. So clearly the pool is there, and people will always remain in Nigeria. Some people will never leave Nigeria because Nigeria is home. So to me, that is not a problem. The issue is how people are educated and the skill sets that it's embedded in them from a very young age all the way up to university. That fundamentally has to change.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think something key you've mentioned is that we need to start really early. You know, right now we're trying to solve from university, but others are already solving from primary school. You know, I know Kenya recently introduced coding as part of their, curriculum for schools. You know, what are we doing as well in Nigeria? You know, and how can we? There are a lot of skills, problem solving. You know, these are critical for any, any job. So I totally agree with you. So I want us to wrap up very shortly, but I would like to hear from Oyin just your views on what roles, and it's just like 1 minute, do you think, the government have to play, the private sector, what role do you think they should play in this? Because we've all agreed it's everybody's, it's everybody's problem.
Yeah, I don't think it's anyone who doesn't have a role to play in improving the final good place we want Nigeria to get to, and our talent specifically. So we can start with government. So
Okay, yes.
He alluded to it earlier. The educational system just isn't churning out the type of talent that is required, either in biotech companies or not. So yes, there's tech talent, but there's project managers, there's agile masters, there are salespeople who are still needed within the tech ecosystem. But a lot of people who've been churned out of universities are not appropriately educated to take up those roles. And we're uniquely placed because Nigeria's average age is 18, if I'm not mistaken. So we can take over the workforce in Nigeria and in Africa within the next 10 years. So the first thing is putting those educational structures in place, revamping the educational system to make sure that the talent being churned out can actually do the work required. From a private sector view, I think you referred to it earlier, Chichi, which is that you are the one that is going to employ these people. So it's in your best interest to make sure that they can do the job that you need them to do. So reaching out above and beyond your immediate, sales increase and making sure that you're putting some money back into schools and so on to make sure that the talent is appropriately can perform the services required, but also within your own company, investing in your talent as well. And then individuals, families. I always say it, you're responsible for your own destiny. There are opportunities out there for you to be as qualified as anybody else. And this thing is not theory. I work remotely, right? I didn't sleep till 4 a.m. I've done 9 to 5. I've done traveling from mainland to island, and now I work from home, and I'm a lot more productive. My employer is over-enjoyment is what is worrying them because they take so much of my time because I'm able to give it. So this thing is not theory. The opportunities are really there, but as an individual, you need to upskill yourself as well. I think basically everybody has a part to play. Just think about, what do I want this country to look like? What do I want my own life to look like? And then do what's required to get there.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll come back to just summing up your points. But I think apparently we need to take a quick break, but we're going to remain here. There's a keynote address for about 10 minutes that needs to happen. And so we'll take that on, and then we'll come back for our Q&A. So I'll introduce Mr. Mark Elliott. He's going to speak about navigating the next normal. He's the division president of MasterCard Sub-Saharan Africa. So welcome, Mark. If you could go ahead, please. He's online.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm hoping that they will take me off and see my face. I can see into the room there, and maybe they can start showing my video. All right, maybe in the meantime, I should just get going. Is that the best thing to do? And hopefully...
Yes, you can go ahead while you're trying to set up a video.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm the division president for MasterCard Sub-Saharan Africa. And it's just such a pleasure to join you in Nigeria FinTech Week. We find that events like these are just really important to drive innovation, foster collaboration, and form strategic partnerships, and accelerate positive transformation of our collective ecosystem. It's something that MasterCard's super passionate about, and we're proud of our legacy as we try to be a supporter of both end-user fintechs and fintech enablers. Together with our fintech partners, we're all looking for the best way to navigate the next normal, to form a new value chain and enable new technologies to enhance financial service provision across Africa. And, you know, if you're in the technology sector like we are, there are a few adventures that are more exciting than this one. So, you know, to be successful in this adventure, we need to be mindful of the wider landscape and the context. The global economy is contracting, and IMF forecasts global growth to slow to 2.7% in 2023. With rising inflation, increasing food prices, and global supply chain issues, we can expect an impact on consumer spending. That said, fintech is actually doing quite well. Data shows that the number of global fintech unicorns was 6.5% more than it was in 2021 compared to 2020. Globally, $287 billion was collectively raised across 534 exits just last year. And, you know, among these trends, we're expecting to see ground being gained, i.e. in an increased focus on cybersecurity automation to improve operating efficiencies, B2B solutions like becoming more attractive to fintech investors, especially in light of rising inflation, and a growing market in which businesses want to seamless enablement to expand new value propositions, and more data-driven solutions, finding unique ways to assess and utilize data in order for which is so important in the quest to differentiate offerings for both consumers and corporates. In addition, many fintech solutions are actively bringing more people into the digital economy, proving scalable financial services using the internet, blockchain, and algorithms. Fintech companies have widened the reach of financial services like loans, insurance, payments, investments, and wealth management. Africa is at the forefront of payments innovation, and Nigeria has a strong financial, tech, and domestic payments ecosystem. As a result, record funding is flowing into fintech startups across SSA. So far in 2022, fintech space in Nigeria has already attracted over $500 million US. Last year, 2 new unicorns emerged from Nigeria. Lagos has 20 million residents that are well positioned to benefit from most of the country's fintech solutions. But in a country of about 200 million, that leaves 90% of the population outside of the capital, eager for convenient digital products that can simplify and enhance life. Getting innovation into the more rural communities of Nigeria, West Africa, and further afield is a significant opportunity, as much for the commercial bottom line of fintechs as it is for social impact and wider inclusion. So I like to talk about trends. So let me talk about a few trends that are emerging. And against this backdrop of fast pace of change and transformation, these are the trends which we see popping. So funding and investment, we just spoke about that, are there for the right products and solutions, and it's leading to great interest and rapid expansion in the sector. We're also seeing increasing interconnectedness of a global marketplace and borderless transactions, driving opportunities for fintechs to scale. Of course, development is Just starting that video. Sorry, guys. Hi. So, of course, development in infrastructure is important, and continued smartphone adoption will be a key driver for fintech adoption. Also, the recent developments of 5G in Nigeria, though still in its infancy, bodes really well for the country's future fintech progress. With 5G almost 100 times faster than 4G, it can deliver superior customer experience in terms of speed, bandwidth, seamlessness, and immersion. The focus on user-led experiences and customer expectations remains front and center. The greatest fintech innovations are those that eliminate pain points and reduce friction, bringing an effortless convenience to our fingertips. Talent is taking up more space in this picture as well. Local expertise and homegrown talent are critical to innovate with local relevance. Retaining that talent can be as essential during the scaling process, when a balance of local know-how and global best practice is ideal. Finally, there's regulation, compliance, policy frameworks, and responsible governance. These are so important for a sustainable sector that can offer people and businesses a safe and secure space to engulf in financial technology. Proactive regulators have been friends of fintech in Africa and understand that fintech really wants that supportive role in kind of that supportive market development area that we look for. A great example is last week's signing of the Nigeria Startup Act, which is very significant. It'll help us to encourage investment, talent retention, and prioritize attention to startups by government agencies and regulators. In the wider region, there are moves to prioritize affordable internet and mobile penetration while facilitating secure and rapid growth of fintech through innovative, bespoke regulation that supports the safe use of innovative technologies while minimizing risk. We can expect regulatory awareness and intervention to increase with the focus on accountability and dispute resolution for customer protection. The way forward also includes international agreements on data privacy, cybersecurity, and digital identification. Striking the right balance between enabling financial innovation and addressing the challenges and risks to financial integrity, consumer protection, and financial stability is absolutely critical. And at MasterCard, we work very closely with regulators and policymakers, as well as partners and innovators, to make sure that this is a safe space during this fantastic change that we're seeing. So yes, there's many ingredients in the mix and positive progress that can only come through collaboration, innovation, and enablement. After all, a thriving fintech sector is beneficial to all stakeholders. Wider inclusion is great for people and businesses, and more competitiveness, which helps us grow our diverse economies. A technology partner that innovates and co-creates with fintechs is critical. Technology sits at the heart of the sector's potential, and technology is driving product development, not just influencing it. And as a technology company, MasterCard is enabling, supporting, and partnering with fintechs to create more connections to the digital economy. We're helping to fuel the acceleration by co-creating solutions and offering wider access. We're also providing the services and tools fintech providers need. By giving them what they need, we're empowering fintechs to build new products, launch data-driven operational strategies, and also, importantly, grow their target segments. The enhanced potential of new and emerging technologies is exhilarating and boosting consumer take-up of new emerging payment methods. I'll just mention a couple of those which are top of mind. So buy now, pay later has become one of the hottest trends with these payments, expected to account for nearly a quarter of all global e-commerce transactions by 2026. Consumers are finding BNPL installments as a very useful budgeting tool to fund big ticket purchases, offer increased spending power. Biometrics are also very interesting, as it will take convenience to a whole new level while boosting possibilities for digital identity solutions. Open banking is being used by consumers for a variety of tasks, including bill payments, credit scoring optimization, and also financial planning. Tap on Phone is a cheaper acceptance solution for merchants, which means they can avoid the outlay cost of expensive POS terminals and instead depend on a phone. Contactless, safe and secure. Proteus launched its Pay contactless solution certified by MasterCard, and a Tap to Pay service introduced by Providus Bank, MasterCard in Switzerland, Thales Group, will stimulate innovation and drive the digital growth of payments in Nigeria. That collaboration also launched tokenization, which will provide further security to card users within the ecosystem. And then there's digital cards, like the Oyo card, the Oyo Better card, certified by MasterCard, offer customers a seamless payment experience that eliminates the risk of card fraud by safely storing their payment credentials in the mobile app, from where they can then use it for safer payments. The mechanics of this delivery, done through digital channels, offers a huge advance in the customer experience. And underpinning all of that is great technology, but also bigger themes: data. Data is the lifeblood of the fintech industry. Many fintech businesses, models actually rely on the data and the needs to secure it in line with global best practice. Cybersecurity is also in focus, and MasterCard's cyber intelligence solutions are also really designed to bring proactive peace of mind in this respect. So we continue to actively expand our capabilities, adding a multitude of differentiated services to power new ways to pay and enhance the customer experience. Our multi-rail expertise in expanding the suite of programs and services are designed all for the needs of the fintech community and provide an express lane for fintech companies of all sizes to build, launch, and grow. The technology and solutions we have are simple and straightforward so that any fintech builder can integrate and deliver solutions at a fast pace. So we're also, though, committed to sustainable impact on the fintech sector. At MasterCard, we want to see that impact come through. We want to keep on innovating with the bold and engaging partnerships that we can see who are moving so fast with agility. We continue to co-create and offer access to our partners to expertise, technologies, markets, and customers so fintechs can ultimately launch and grow. We've got our best-in-class APIs and data assets to our trusted ecosystem of partners. MasterCard provides these through the developer zone, which you can easily look up on your browser. And as the original fintech, we're excited about partnering with all of you with emerging innovators on disruptive solutions through the MasterCard Accelerate portfolio. It's a global single point of entry to MasterCard's wide portfolio of specialized programs, supporting startups through every stage of their growth, through transformation from market entry to global expansion. I spoke about MasterCard Developer Zone, but there's also MasterCard Engage. It's a free global program that identifies qualified technology partners to help them build and deploy solutions for fintechs, making it quicker and easier to work together. Then there's FinTech Express, designed to give fintechs wanting a direct license from MasterCard, as well as fintechs with the ambition to innovate through collaborating with ready-to-go MasterCard engagements. And then there's StartPath, our 6-month engagement program that actually helps latter-stage startups to scale, has helped over 300 startups to tackle challenges and take advantage of opportunity across MasterCard's ecosystem of digital transformation, biometrics, cybersecurity, small businesses, open banking, and so much more. Earlier this year, Now Digital Systems was selected for the program, reshaping the marketplace for SMEs. Now provides reliable, best-in-class FS technology to SMEs, agents, and consumers to drive financial empowerment for all of its customers. Hello Tractor joined in 2020, putting the spotlight on agri-tech. It connects tractor owners to farmers through an Internet of Things-enabled digital solution that bridges the gap between manual and mechanized farming. This gives smallholder farmers easier access to affordable tractor services so they can plant on time and increase yields. So inclusion is also really important, and as a result of our FinTech partnership and collaboration, whether it's agri-tech, helping SMEs, or P2P payments, FinTech is building inclusion in Africa from the ground up. They're critical partners in our mission to connect 1 billion people to the digital economy by 2025. And at MasterCard, we're curating a global network of innovators to support a more inclusive, sustainable digital economy. We all thrive when FinTech companies thrive and have access to the technology they need to thrive, scale, and to democratize finances. That's why we work with FinTechs in 172 countries to power innovation and deliver seamless experiences that enable a more financially inclusive future for all. So in conclusion, there's a partner opportunity for all of us to collaborate and realize the potential of FinTechs. The next normal is now, and the technologies to build the future are quite frankly here. Reaching that last mile remains as important as ever, particularly in Africa. Beyond supporting and encouraging the next generation of innovators, we must enable them. I strongly believe that through partnership, we can close this digital divide, co-create solutions and innovate for real impact. It's only through this collaboration that we can deliver scalable, secure, interoperable, and convenient payment ecosystems that will bring us closer to a cashless world. Together, we can navigate the next normal with confidence. We can create more connections to the digital economy and drive sustainable, inclusive growth in Africa to build a bright future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. Fantastic keynotes. I think we should give him another round of applause if he's still there. Thank you very much. So welcome back, everyone. I think that was a fantastic keynote on navigating the next normal. But we'll just bring you back into the panel so we can wrap up. I'll give a quick summary, and then we'll take a few questions, and I'll come back to the panelists to just give me your prediction over the next 10 years of where you see this talent thing going. So just a quick summary, just to remind you of where we left off. We agreed that some key things need to happen, a change of mindset. It's critical for employees today to be able to retain talent. We also agreed that you need to invest in talent, invest in people. That's going to be critical. We agreed that talent as a service is a new way to do business, so we should definitely consider that as a key, opportunity for us as employers as well. We also agreed that education needs to be looked at. We need to start early in terms of transforming our educational system to be able to really create that pipeline. And last thing we agreed, or one of the last things, was that it's everybody's responsibility. So I'm going to open up to the floor. Hope I've managed to bring you back. Do you have any questions for, these key, speakers here today? Oh, we already have hands up. Okay. I think his came up first. So I see 3 hands, so we'll take those questions. Okay, please, can you go ahead? Just tell us who you are and your question, please.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kachi from Interfort, Nigeria. It's a nice discussion. I was really engaged in the conversation. So my question for the panel is, I happened to work with NIIT back in those days, a couple of years ago, and I had a lot of young guys and ladies back then who were learning their software skill and enhancing their skills, and they were quite very good at what they were doing. But there was a limit to what they could, how far they could go, because they have not gotten their degree. So there is a lot of talent in, the software engineering field and even in the data science field that do not have their degrees yet. How can we tap into that talent, bearing in mind the Nigerian labor laws and all those restrictions around it? Please, I would want you to, help, throw more light on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll take the questions quickly and then we'll get people to respond.
Hello, my name is Salim. The discussion regarding, because I feel the whole panelists were focused on universities. A lot of discussion was around that. And this is a superposition I'm making on myself based on my understanding. And the question is, first, a confirmation if that is correct, and then the answer to the question. So just a background work. I feel personally that there's a disconnect between the industry and the university. The first point of contact, especially in Nigeria, with graduates is when they have written down their CVs and looking for a job. And the traditional mindset that is coming in is get a good degree, first class, second class, and you get a job. So that mindset is found in universities all through. So they just boil down to the handouts and cram and pass, and then they come to the market, and then the market is not looking for your first class or for your second class. It's looking for your skills. So personally, I feel that the disconnect, I don't know. I need a confirmation if that is there, and if that disconnect is there, how do we bridge it? Because I feel if we can bridge that disconnect between the industry and the universities, there'll be a lot of skill set already coming in prepared. Software engineering, for example, most people are self-trained. University is just a guideline. It allows you to self-train. So I believe if the industry can go in there, it will change the mindset of the kids coming out of university. So I don't know if the question is clear.
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you. We'll take the third question then. And then.
All right. Good afternoon. Sorry, can you step back a bit? My name is Oluchukwu Osai. I work with Woodcore. I want to ask a question and make a statement at the same time. And that is around, I want to make a case for funding for EdTech as a way of driving training, tech training in the sector. So the panelists have been speaking majorly on companies upskilling their staff. But I think and I believe, and I'm also asking it as a question, that fintech institutions, especially those that offer some sort of financial facility, loans and the sort, can design some sort of loan for trainings that Nigerians can take, to access some high-level trainings they will need to get important jobs and then pay back. And that way, we'll have more people having the opportunity to get trained without necessarily placing all of the burden of training on the companies or waiting until the government is able to fix our university system to teach people what they need to know to function profitably in the economy. So that's my question. Is it possible for the fintech sector to create facilities that people can access to get trained and be productive members of the society? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's one more question. We'll just quickly take that and, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. My name is Abiola Jimo. I work with ExchangeBox, and this is what I have as a suggestion and a question. So, skilling, reskilling is mobile, and people are going to be leaving. There's going to always be that of capacity in the industry, and I'll tell you why. The industry is growing at the speed of light. Someone comes with an idea, you want to execute instantly. Even the developers he's using probably don't have an idea of what he's building. He's just pivoting, build an MVP that may probably scale or not scale and all that. So I think that one way we can work with FinTech Nigeria, because FinTech Nigeria deserves a lot of round of applause. If we can give them one night, it would be nice. Thank you. But I think one way we can complement their efforts more, the engagement we're already having with the FinTech Nigeria can launch a pipeline or a funnel for us for capacity building or development. We can introduce FinTech Nigeria internship programs that list different capacities we need as industry operators and players, such that maybe from the penultimate year, so the engagement with the university is not coming as in silos. Corapay goes, ExchangeBox goes, I go to the university, and it's very distorted. It's not coordinated. If we can have FinTech Nigeria collate our skills need, recurrently that we always do need, with people like the trainers there, with universities, and say, let your students apply for internship in data analysis, UI, UX, software engineering. Even nano degrees now does not require you to really be physically on ground. So a lot of people are doing skilling on their own. And with that, we can begin to define what we need to grow the industry. Because one of the biggest problems we're all facing, I don't know if other people are facing, is that you employ someone, you waste 6 months, they don't know jack. And then when they know, another company pitch and take them away, pays them higher, it's frustrating. Okay. So I think we can solve this problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more suggestion, but let me close it.
Yeah, for now. We'll come back then, but we appreciate your suggestion. So what I'll do just for time is if every speaker can just take one of the questions. The first one is about the no degree and what can be done. What do you think? It looks like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll answer that question in light of my experience as the head of HR now. So for each department, for each skill set, I would usually advise that. So for instance, like the previous speaker mentioned, Nigeria's tech talent is highly self-taught. They're highly, self-trained. There's no sort of school or degree per se that's like standardized here. Most people would go online, take courses, or perhaps they had the opportunity to travel out and come back in. So I usually advise hiring managers, instead of looking for the first class and the, top universities, why don't you look for teachability, soft skills, in addition to what they have already practicalized? So of course you would give them tests as well to test their knowledge, practical tests. Why don't you give them that sort of test and then balance it with a soft skill? Are they adaptable? Can they be taught? Are they patient? Are they humble enough for you to, train them and take them on? So instead of looking for already established, full-blown software engineers, which is very hard to get, you could balance it out with soft skills. Bring these people in. Some people really quick to learn, really quick to catch on. And before you know it, they're actually at par with these other people. So that's what I usually do. I advise hiring managers, balance it out with soft skills. Don't insist on 10-year experience, 5-year experience. If they're able to be teachable, if they're, adaptable, that's good enough in my books.
Okay. Thank you. And just to quickly say that some organizations have reduced their hiring. So I know a lot of banks were 2-1 and above, but I know that they've recently come down to 2-2 to solve this issue. So the next question, we're almost done now, quickly, is just talking about the disconnect between the industry and, did you want to take the industry and I guess the skills, the people. I think Lekon said he'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
No, okay. He said
yeah, you're completely right. There's a complete disconnect. And it goes back to that silo mentality of I'll do what I want and what I need, not what the industry needs or what the industry wants. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the educational structure. Like you said, people are looking for first class, second class degrees. And for me, the solution is very clear. Whether it is technology, engineering, law, whatever it might be, there needs to be almost like a conveyor belt of mentoring, development, medium, long-term plan, whereby people progress from university with the correct skill set, experience, be it internships, and they then get mentored by an entity. And from there, if they're able to meet the requirements, they progress and they're guaranteed a contract, even if it's just for 1 year or 2 years initially. So it brings stability to the process of not just the industry investing in specific, I don't want to call it like baby farms, but almost like a chicken battery whereby you prep them for what you require. And they come and you're like the oven and you put them in the oven, you roast them and you eat them. It's that mentality of creating that process flow from start to finish that needs to be established. Again, as an individual, education is not cheap. And if you're paying for your own tuition fees, your university fees, you want to know there's some sort of, not necessarily insurance or guarantee, but there's a high probability you're going to get employed. So if you're going to go into a very niche requirement, if it's algorithm engineering, for example, you want to know there's a company out there that will say, do you know what, we are either going to guarantee you a job for 2 years post-university or we're going to pay half your tuition fees. These kind of frameworks need to be developed across the board. Like I said, we need to progress from I'm just going to get a first-class degree, then I'm going to go out into the job market and look for a job, survival of the fittest mentality. We want to see a clear framework of people progressing from university to industry. Again, the whole ecosystem mindset has to change. You know, you have situations where lecturers are failing students because they don't buy their notes and all these kind of things. So that entire mindset and those silos need to be broken down. And once that happens, you know, like I said, I'm pretty confident. I'm not worried about migration because there's enough talent in Nigeria. But it's about ensuring people are equipped with the correct skills and actually getting educated or taking on degrees that enables them to add value to whatever sector that might be. It doesn't have to be technology or fintechs.
Oh, thank you. And if she would allow me, let's just take the last question. And I think it was more of a comment. He was talking about, the importance of edtechs in this, matter and how they can play a role and how they should be funded. But I think I can just quickly say that there's work, I know, by some organizations like Semicolon and Co. who train people. They pay for their own trainings themselves, and when they come back, they get jobs and they repay. So I think we can talk more about that after the session as well. So I think we'll come to a close. I'd have loved for us to give our 1-minute prediction, but we don't have time. Maybe we can do it online of where we see the industry going over the next 10 years. We can do that online. Thank you so much.
A round
Thank
of
you,
applause
Anthony,
for our
as well.
panelists and the moderator, please. We'll take quick pictures.